I call to order this regular meeting of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. Any final action taken on the conditional use permits applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, July 3rd at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, July 18th at or after 9 a.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date. Meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. Action taking on the rezoning applications during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the County Commission for another public hearing on Tuesday, August 1st at or after 9 a.m. Meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda, and items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion, with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the May 22nd, 2023 meeting are included in the consent agenda. I will next read each item on the consent agenda and will ask if there's any issues or comments from the Planning Commission or the audience. If any member of the Planning Commission or audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand, and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the Commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 2 is a conditional use permit 23-22 to allow a government training facility on the property legally described as Bollinger Tract 1, West Half, Northeast Quarter, and Tract 1 and 2, East Half, Northwest Quarter, and Tract 1, West Half, Northeast Quarter, all in Section 29, Township 103 North, Range 47 West. That is in Palisade Township. The petitioner is the City of Garrettson. They're also the property owner. This is located about a half mile south of Garrettson along 254th Street. Is there anyone from the audience of the Planning Commission that wishes to be heard on this item? Item number 3 is conditional use permit 23-23 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 6,764 square feet on the property legally described as Muntz Tract Lot 1, Northeast Quarter, Section 9, Township 101 North, Range 51 West. That is in Wall Lake Township. Petitioner and the property owner is Eric Bartman. That is located at 46281 263rd Street, approximately 2.5 miles south of Hartford. Does anyone from the audience or the Planning Commission wish to be heard on this item? Item number 4, conditional use permit 23-24 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 12,396 square feet on the properties legally described as Tract 1 and 2, Devitt Addition, Southeast Quarter, Section 11, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. That is in Split Rock Township. Petitioners Chris and Julie Nelson, they're also the property owners. It is located at 26353 483rd Avenue, approximately 1 mile southeast of Brandon. Does anyone from the audience or the Planning Commission wish to be heard on this item? Item number 5, conditional use permit 23-25 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 18,717 square feet on the property legally described as Johnson's Addition. There is an exception of Tract 1, Haug's Addition, and of exception. South half, southeast quarter, section 2, Township 102 North, Range 50 West. This is in Benton Township. Petitioner is Clayton Haug. Property owner is Rose Haug, 47084 257th Street. Anyone from the audience or planning commission wishes to be heard on this item? Item number 6, conditional use permit 23-28 to transfer to building eligibilities from the southwest quarter, northeast quarter, and the northwest quarter, the southeast quarter, to the northwest quarter, the northeast quarter, and the southwest quarter, the southeast quarter, all in Section 5, Township 101 North, Range 51 West. That is in Wall Lake Township. Rodney Hahn, property owner is the same, approximately located at 2 miles southwest of Hartford. Anyone from the Planning Commission or the audience wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, those are all the items on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve all the items on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. If your item has been approved, you're free to go. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 7 is a rezoning. 2304 to rezone from the A1 Agricultural District to the rural, RR Rural Residential. The property legally described as Tract 1, Schur's Edition. There is an exception of Lot H-2, end of exception, east half, section 24, Township 103 North, Range 49 West, that's Sverdrup Township. Petitioner and property owner is Peter Bendorf, located at 25349 478th Avenue. Mason.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Mason Stefan from the County Planning Office. As explained, this request is to rezone approximately 15 acres from the A1 Agricultural District to the RR Rural Residential District. Currently, there is one single-family dwelling on this property, and this property is located approximately 7 miles west of Garrettson along 478th Avenue or County Highway 121. Given that this rezoning would be to the RR Rural Residential Zoning District, if approved, it would allow for rural development and subdivision of the property. And since the rural residential zoning district has a minimum lot size of 1 acre, it could have the potential to add up to 15 lots if approved. The site plan that was submitted for this request, which I'll go down to now, proposes 6 lots, each lot being approximately 2 acres in size. As you can see on this site plan here, the petitioner is proposing a new mutual access easement off the county highway, which would need to be approved by the county highway department before any development could occur. Additionally, since this proposal is going to have more than 4 individual lots, if this rezoning is approved, the petitioner would then need to apply for a preliminary subdivision plan through the planning department. At that point, it would come back to the planning commission and the county commission for approval. And at that time, they would need to submit a more detailed plan, which would include more specific lot sizes and dimensions, any access easements, and other more particular information for the development. Regarding this specific rezoning, staff does have some concerns regarding density zoning and adding a cluster of residential properties in the ag production area of the county. In the ag production area of the county, residential development is supposed to be limited to the available building eligibilities, and as stated, there is only the one building eligibility on this property for the existing house, so there would be increasing the rural residential density on this property. Additionally, there have been several instances in the recent past where the county has denied similar small lot rezonings like this request. This included a request from last year, which was to rezone a 7-acre property to the rural residential zoning district to create a 5-lot subdivision, which was over by Hartford. And then another one that was denied in 2017 was to create a 3-lot subdivision on a 20-acre property close to the city of Sioux Falls. Staff finds that this proposed rezoning shares similar issues with those denied examples, including density zoning and spot rezoning of small parcels. Also, those denied examples were closer to the city of Sioux Falls and the city of Hartford, so they had the ability of potentially having city services in the next 10 to 15 years. This property is 7 miles west of Garrettson and about the same north of Sioux Falls, so it will be in the ag production area of the county for a long time. Then specifically in regards to the Envision 2035 comprehensive plan, as explained, this property is in the ag production area of the county, and the primary purpose of the agricultural production area is to protect, preserve, and promote the agricultural uses and the economic viability of the farming operations. And residential development should be limited in density to one residential building eligibility per 40 acres unless sanitary sewer is available or other city services, which, as explained in this case, there will not be. Finally, this request does not meet the stated goals and objectives of the Envision 2035 comprehensive plan, and if approved, would encourage other similar requests and that do not conform with density zoning. Therefore, staff finds that the proposed rezoning is contrary to the goals and policies of the Envision 2035 comprehensive plan and recommends denial of rezoning 2304 to rezone the subject property from the A1 agricultural district to the RR rural residential district. And then I'll just go through some pictures here. So I skipped by the location map, but as you can see here, this is County Highway 121. If you go take this highway to the south half mile, that is the highway that goes right into Garrettson. So if you take that highway 6.5 miles to the east, it would take you right into Garrettson. And then here is that site plan again with the new access down here. Here's the existing access. You can see it kind of curves off of the highway and then straightens out up here. When staff was out there, this current access definitely would not be suitable for any sort of residential development. So some new access would need to be approved if the rezoning is approved. This one was not adequate. And you can see this would be some of the area to be rezoned. You can kind of see there's a creek here, and this, where this access turns, it gets down into the low-lying area, which it's hard to get out, in and out of. You can see the existing house there. And then I'll just go back to the site plan, and if you have any questions for me, I am available.
Any questions for him? Is the petitioner here? Will you please step forward and state your name and address?
Good evening. My name is Peter Bendorf. I live at 25349 478th Avenue, Garrettson. A couple of comments. As you look at the, I don't know how to use this mouse, I guess. Is there a arrow or something, or
Yeah.
or is that what I've got right there? Oh, now it's changing the picture. I'll address the comments about the driveway that is currently there. This bridge right here was replaced about 5 years ago, and it was extended and increased the throughput, the capacity of the flow through it. And the guardrail here was too long to be, the necessary guardrail would have made the driveway that was existing at the time inappropriate. They would have been had a guardrail across the front of it. So this driveway is in fact a temporary driveway that the county put in the substrate and the surface and so forth so that we could get in and out of the property. At the same time, they established the access that is actually, I'm sorry. Down here, this is existing right now. So it's already there, it's already on the county's maps, and they put it in. This angled access to the center of the development site would be a way to actually avoid what would be a low-lying area on the south end of the property, right in here. The need to submit a subdivision plan is not, it's not opposed at all. I would expect the subdivision plan to include access easements, and as a addition to that is a agreement for joint maintenance of the access road that would be getting access to the lots. As well as the site development plan, as you note, you see the 6 2-acre lots, and then on the face of it, along the road, is vacant land that I anticipate being addressed in the joint easements and covenant agreements to maintain those lots. That will be community gardens and a park. The area that you see on the east side of the creek is currently virtually unusable. It's just has limited access, and it's bordered by the creek that drops down about 8 or 10 feet from the grade as the grade exists beside the highway. Addition to that, you can see the lightened area around the creek. That does represent the 100-year floodplain. But that lot 1 is actually the elevation, as you look at it, it is significantly higher than where the water actually does occur. And unfortunately, we've had about 5 100-year floods in the last 3 years since they put the bridge in, and the water ends up going over the temporary driveway and then traveling south and then going through the transverse culvert under the road. So there's no flood impact to the area where they've been divided as lots. The comment I like to make is the paragraph, it's not numbered, but it would be the 3rd paragraph in the staff analysis where the author says, residential development should be limited to available building eligibilities. I couldn't find that language anywhere in the Envision 2035 plan at all. In fact, on page 28 to 31 of Envision 35, there are numerous paragraphs which implicate the intent to allow the use of plans like the proposed plan as a means to achieve the stated objectives of conservation. That would be the goal 2 in the 2035 plan. Prevention of premature conversion, that's goal 4, of which are supported by the proposed plan. The plan that I have developed is going to include a circulatory water system so that each of the lots has access to essentially geothermal heating and cooling. It is an area that there is no natural gas supplied in that area at all. There's gas across the ditch, but apparently when they put it in, they put in the wrong pipe, so they can't tap into it. And neither this property, nor if we looked at the larger county plan, you'd see the adjoining property. This property is 15 acres. The neighbor is, I believe, 6. And these have been sliced out of the agricultural production area for a number of years. I've owned it for 15 years, and it's been many more years than that it has not been in agriculture. The addition of the park and garden area in that the frontage segment has a dual purpose. Number one, of course, is the use of a park, as the purchasers of the lots would be able to enjoy, but as well as it'll provide a green buffer zone such that any runoff would be filtered by the buffer zone prior to entering the creek. So that's definitely preserving preserving our agriculture, preserving the land, and making it useful. As I explained earlier, on page 28 of the use of the moving forward document, the goal two being to discourage, the words that were used in there are discourage rural development in ag land. And the action item specifically stated in the plan, in the moving forward Envision 2035 says, the action 2.1 says clustering of residential structures on non-productive A1 land through density zoning. That's what this project does specifically. Goal 4 is restrict development to areas with municipal utilities available. Minnehaha County, Minnehaha Community Water is available. Electrical support is provided by Sioux Valley Electric. One of the photographs that you were shown earlier showed the most recent development of the electrical system in that they have now brought it underground. And there's a distribution box that's located precisely near, well, you can see the, let me see if I can get my, there we go. Right here is where the box is, that is right in this area, that is where the power comes from the highway into the center of the lot. And that's where the power would then be divided to go to all the other lots. So you have water, you have electricity. This property, the house, our house has been serviced by a septic tank, of course, for I don't know how long. I mean, it's got PVC pipe going into it, so it's got to be within the last 40 years probably, but there's been no problems with the septic tank, and I would expect a condition before any building permits would be issued that they would have a perk test and be able to submit the typical septic tank plan. On page 41, in the same planning document, goal 1 is to promote preservation. Well, the use of natural landscaping, the water feature we anticipate, and then as well everything being supplied with a geothermal access to heating and cooling, it certainly preserves. Those are certainly aspects that will preserve that. On page 91, we had a goal of protecting and preserving ag land, and the action will be clustering with certainly currently available utilities. All the tracks will have septic tanks, septic systems, Minnehaha Community Rural Water, Sioux Valley Energy. So I recognize that I came to one of the meetings about 3 or 4 months ago to see how the process was accomplished. And I recognize that you have turned down some other similarly applied groups. But what I caution the commission is that without any articulated contradictions, it would be classified as an arbitrary and capricious action if the permit is denied merely because you denied earlier permits. I can't speak to any basis for previous permits, but I don't believe they had focused on conservation of energy. I don't believe they had focused on preservation of runoff, and they were not included in areas that have been carved out of agriculture for many, many years. I would suspect, although there's been no traffic study accomplished, but with 6 lots and an access that's to the same road, the border of this subdivision would not change any agricultural operation that's in the adjoining area. There was a map that was displayed earlier to the commission that showed the number of acreages in this particular section. It should be noted that I mean, there's a reason why the state of South Dakota spent the $100 million or whatever it was for the access of the Veterans Parkway, which that's what this road is. Veterans Parkway, where it crosses the interstate, with the anticipation that it's going to be moving forward. It's going to be moving north. And I would expect that a small subdivision with 2-acre lots would be better than many alternatives. There's not going to be a problem with traffic. The Arrows Data Center is 1.5 miles north, and they travel, there's a traffic jam every day of about maybe 10 minutes that when they're coming and going from work. And I would just urge the commission to recognize that there are unique features of this particular proposal, and those features overcome some of the problems or identified negatives from the staff analysis as well. I think the language of should be limited should be focused on, and if it does occur in the book, I didn't find it, but if it does, it does. So I just ask the commission to approve the rezoning and recognizing that if there's conditions that with covenants that will follow with the land of being 2 acres, that would be fine, because that's my expected plan. Any questions?
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I just wonder, why do you want to do this, I guess? Why do you want to, if you live there, I guess, why do you want to divide this up and make 6 residential lots?
Well, I know it sounds, my wife and I live there and love the area. We love the quiet. We love what it is. People come and visit the site, visit our farm, our acreage. And you can look to the east and you can see like a ridge. We call it the mountains. There's obviously no mountains up there, but there's a ridge, and you can sit and look. We have shaded yard, shaded around the house, and we sit out front with our swing, and in the evening, in the cool of the evening, and it's just very nice and quiet. And when we have people come out to visit, they comment on that, and the birds that are singing in the trees that are there. I mean, it's very country, and it's very quiet, and we love it. But we're selling, and we're selling that property, and we currently have it listed. There's been a few cash offers to buy it, but not enough cash. But so this is what we're contemplating doing, to be able to accommodate more people with the quiet and the solitude and the beauty of what they're looking for. We happen to be moving to Indiana, where I own 186 acres of land there that is free and clear, so now that we're retired, I can sell this property and take a little equity out of it and go build a house and not have a house permit or a house payment. So that's why.
Okay, any other questions for him? Guess not at this time. Anyone else in the audience care to address this item? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Brian Simmonsma. I live at 25391 478th Avenue, directly south of the property that's being discussed right here. So, first off, yes, it's peaceful out there. I like to keep it that way. Second off, the property that is, as Peter did state, it is for sale. I believe it's listed at $650,000. It's all public information. You go ahead and look at what's listed. Nothing's finished. The house is in shambles. The outside buildings are in shambles. You saw the picture up there. There's pallets going across as a gate? I'm not sure what that is. But I'm really worried if that house stays the way it is, what this property is going to turn into, right? So I agree with what the staff said about one one eligibility per 40 acres. That's how I obtained, that's why I have a house there, because I went through the proper channels to do that. Splitting this into 6 or 15 or however many are going to end up here or that's being proposed, I don't agree with it. Also, there was mention of a park. Just make note, there is a park right next to my place, which is Bucher Perry Park. That is a county park that is maintained. We already have a park in the area. I don't know why we need another one. So, those would be my comments. Don't agree with it. There's a lot of traffic out there already. Whether it's 6, so 2 cars per place, you're looking at 12 more cars on the Arrows Road. We got enough. I don't think we need any more. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item in the audience? Please state your name and address.
Wayne Albers, live 478th Avenue, about a half mile south of this project. I farm in that area, go by the property quite a bit. There's no ever any activity around there. He's got pallets across the driveway. Nothing's been done with the property since he's purchased it. So I don't know how things can get changed. He's gonna sell it, move on, let somebody else worry about it. So it's for sale. Like you said, look at the house. He hasn't even finished the house. The pictures on the website for the selling company. So I would urge you guys to disapprove this action. So, because being a neighbor, we like good neighbors. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this? Speak first.
Al Sabers, I just live a half mile south of there too, and I'm just kind of wondering, he wants to bail out, but yet he wants all these housing eligibility so he can sell them. Well, if I want to build a house, I got to buy one because there's only 40 per acre. Why would you give him 6 when we got to go buy one for $100,000? And he's going to take off to Indiana with the money.
Anyone else in the audience care to address this?
Good evening, I'm Karen Nielsen. I live at 1114 Wyland Drive in Del Rapids. I own the property across from this gentleman, and I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do this. I just made some comments. I was raised 1 mile from this property. The Donovan property is how I refer to it. It was an active dairy farm until the gentleman, Dennis Donovan, passed away, and then it was sold off by the family. So it has been an active farm. I was raised on a dairy farm myself, so I don't know. I don't want to be negative. I just have some questions. Is it okay if I just ask questions?
No, you basically can make comments, but
Okay. What happens when the good farmland just has houses on it? Problems arise with acreages versus farmers, as they do with city versus country moving into town. Does this set precedents? Is this a one-time thing? Or if I have an acreage with 5 acres, can I sell off 2? Are we allowed to? I just wonder what happens when we have little acreages all over. The United States does not have prime farm ground. Minnehaha does. And we're getting little acreages all over the place. So I just have a statement. Let farmers farm, please. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item? Petitioner, you have any other comments?
Well, just briefly.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
I won't need 2 minutes. There's a gate that I constructed using pallets, and the reason I did it that way was because the Rottweiler that I have behind it will stay inside, and we don't have a neighborly issue then with running dogs. As far as nothing getting finished, I don't think that's entirely accurate, but there's unfinished work on it, that's for sure. But if I'm able to subdivide it, and given the offers that I've had to buy it, it's not gonna look the same anyway. The concept being that the buildings that are on there would be raised, and it would be then graded, and somebody would build a house like the house that's at the corner, around the corner, that's $1 million house, and another one in the same section as well. So with that in mind, I just think the highest and best use of the land would be to subdivide it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Go ahead, Ryan.
this is closer to town. I might think about or consider this, but I think at this point, adding housing eligibilities to it, I would not be in support of this tonight, so.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
One point of clarification as well. We have the 2035 Envision Plan, but that's not necessarily the ordinances which govern the land we're looking at here. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, staff, but when we look at it too, the 1 per 40 was an ordinance, correct? Or how it will?
Yes, that's part of the density zoning is one building eligibility per 40 acres.
I guess where I'm going with this is that's more what we look at than the Envision 35 plan most of the time when considering land use.
Well, I think that you need to take them both into consideration. The comprehensive plan is a guideline on how you'd like the county to develop.
Fair enough.
And there's a significant section in there that talks about ag land preservation, and the intent
Fair.
is, looking at transition areas close to cities and that can provide city services. Ideally, it's annexed into the city, which can provide city water and sewer and fire and police protection and city services.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I guess with that said, I guess maybe I was trying to address the comment that to deny would be with no basis, and I think we do have basis. I guess what I'm trying to drive at here that, and in addition to that 2035 plan, we do have ordinances that state 1 per 40. I guess understand too, like Ryan stated, this is a ways away from any future development in the next probably 5, 10, 15, 20 years, really, to be annexed into any city property with city services. So I do not agree with this proposed development.
Any other comments? No? Not any longer. I close the floor.
Closed it.
Madam Chair, I would echo the sentiments generally, and I guess I'd go one step further and actually point out within the ordinances and within the comprehensive plan that basically incorporates those ordinances of the 1 per 40 building eligibilities that go back to 1988. So when we talk about precedent, this is pretty hardwired into our system, for better or for worse. I think you can make arguments for or against, but I think that's the way we have the system. And to, I think, one commenter, the value of these building eligibilities are real asset. And so to just kind of hand over to go to rural residential and to hand, 15 eligibilities in 15 acres, when the proper, under this vision and the structure we have, the proper way to do that would be to purchase adjacent eligibilities and go to density zoning that way to keep within the overall schema of the proposal. So I think this is contrary to the 2035 plan for good reasons around density zoning and preservation of ag. I will just make general comment. I don't think it applies here. I think for my colleagues' comments about this not being anywhere really close to any municipality, but I think we're setting a few precedents of saying no, and I think those are the correct decisions in isolation. But I think we're going to have to eventually give on the supply side of residential development. I think we're going to have to give some broader guidance on what we would say yes to. So I think I'm prepared to say no tonight, but as I think we're going to have to, 2035 will be here before you know it, I guess is what I'm referring to. And we may need another comprehensive plan that takes into account in a more comprehensive way rather than looking at one specific item. And we have reasons for why we're saying no to this tonight, but trying to lay out some objective criteria why we would say yes and giving that guidance to developers in the community that do want to help us out on the supply side of our housing crunch. So those are just some general comments that we can work towards in the future. Nothing urgent, but I think I have a part of me that just saying no to people over and over again, I want to give them some guidance of, if you were pursuing this in a different area, closer to municipalities, following all these different principles, I think we could rally around some concepts that could give developers better guidance in the future. But I think this one is a fairly clear-cut case within our 2035 plan and just the history of how we handle building eligibility. So I'll be a no vote on this one.
Any other further comments?
You guys said it all.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to deny item 7 on the regular agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to deny the rezoning of 2304. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to old business. Need an update on the pipeline?
Yes, just a quick update. 2 weeks ago, after a continuation, the county commission approved the transmission pipeline ordinance. There were some minor changes, or there were some changes. Some of them were quite minor, which really dealt with how material was to be provided and when it was to be provided. The only real substantive change was the setback, and that went from 750 to 330 feet. And the commission reduced that based on, I think, the FIMSMA, or the federal standard of based on a safety, what they feel is a safety issue for the setback of that. And so it was reduced to 330 feet from the parcel line. So it's not from the structure, but from the parcel. So that ordinance goes into effect on July 13th.
Great.
Anything else?
Do you want to address, which one of you going to address this other item?
Kevin's going to
Okay.
address that.
All right, so move on down. All right, so at the last meeting on May 22nd, Dean Sands brought concerns to the Planning Commission during public comment that ricochet bullets were leaving the range of the Garrettson Sportsman's Club. He brought documentation at that meeting dating concerns back to 2013, and he is located approximately 1,000 feet southwest of the rifle range that he is concerned about. So after that meeting, I did stop and meet with Chuck Brown at the Sportsman's Club on June 9th, and showed me around the range. I'll kind of point out some of the things I learned since then. He discussed that the range was originally built during the Vietnam era, and we have aerial imagery showing here. This is 1981 county imagery, where you see the rifle range right here, the backstop, and this is Google Earth imagery from 1991. You can still see that backstop there. So the range has been active with at least some portion of rifle range for a very long time. In 2006, the club received a conditional use permit to expand the rifle range. And there it is today. They purchased this land and built the rifle range like this, in this configuration. The conditional use permit had very minimal conditions on it. The most restrictive being the hours of operation between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. For the shooting range. At the range, Chuck showed me the security cameras that are used throughout the site. He showed how the site is used with badge access for members only. And the badge access only allows access from during open hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekdays and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weeknights. He noted that volunteers do supervise the range during busy days that they know of, such as Memorial Day was a busy day. Range rules includes that there are no metal targets and no ground targets to be shot at during the range. And this is to reduce ricochets. And then I'll show you a few photos here that I took. He showed the backstops and sideburns are located along the range. Sand was currently being installed along the backstops to reduce potential of rocks being in the dirt that was originally constructed. As you can see there, the tires and the sand starting to be pulled up along those tires and the backstop. This is the shortest range for the pistols. And I'll move here. So down the range, there are backstops, are baffles to capture bullets, and also these concrete deflectors that are angled down to direct shooting in a safe direction. And you can see here, this is at the longest range, a 200-yard range, and I'm standing up, and I can't even see the target. So you'd have to go down at the level of the range there to look down the range, or the level of the shooting kind of stand. You can see the baffles here going down the range there. There's the sign posted for the hours of operation. And this is looking at kind of the corner of the pistol range down toward the grove of trees where Dean Sands lives. During my visit, Chuck Brown explained that the range is following or exceeding safe range practices by the NRA source book for range development. And that's where the information I have. You can see what there was there and what has been done. If the Planning Commission wants to do anything more, the next step would be is to direct staff to do a recall review, which would be then we notify the property owner, the Garrettson Gun Club, and neighboring property owners of a recall. And it would be at that public hearing that there would be a chance to change conditions, add conditions, or perhaps even recall the entire permit. So with that, I guess I'll take some questions. Probably just put it back onto the overhead view of the property. And I believe, yes, Dean is here, so he'll be able to speak to this as well. So,
Any questions for him? It's not right now. Dean, go ahead.
Could we have Dean come up and just talk about, it sounds like they've been installing some sand since we last met, or they might have been while you're up there, Kevin, to see if there's been any improvements that he's seen, if this is something he's still concerned with.
Please step forward. Please state your name and address.
Falling asleep from sitting for a while. My name is Dean Sands, 25531 486th Avenue. I can't honestly speak. I know they've made, I see the sand is put there. I think that's a good thing. I haven't heard another ricochet since April 23rd, and I don't honestly know when I'll hear the next one. And my argument last month would have been that we should have some professionals look at the design of this range to make sure it meets safety standards. The only thing that's changed since April 23rd is the addition of that sand, which I'm happy they did that. Will that be enough? I don't know. And the range has made improvements over the years, and several of them, both in the way the tunnel has been constructed, and you know, I know that these guys have good intentions, but there's still bullets leaving the range. And whether that sand is enough, whether the berms are high enough, whether they're good enough, I think a professional range consultant should look at that and verify that it is. Because I could make recommendations, but what do I know? I'm just a guy who likes guns, who's got bullets coming at. I'm afraid I have bullets coming towards my house once every few years. So that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Any other questions for him? It's not at this time. Commissioners?
I think we got somebody else that wants to speak
Oh.
on the matter.
Please state your name and address, sir.
Chuck Brown, 48165 259th Street, Brandon. I'm the treasurer of the gun club. I met with Kevin there, and we're really concerned about the safety of the range. And obviously, I think Kevin can know that we are, because we've done major improvements constantly on that. Anytime Dean or anybody has complained about something, we immediately take action and do something to make sure that doesn't happen. Has there been ricochets? Personally, I haven't heard them, but I'm not there all the time. Sometimes you hear a ricochet, but does it leave your property? So if it does not leave your property, I don't believe that it's, you know, a harm, because it's designed, our rifle range, if it hits those baffles, you would definitely hear a ricochet, but where did it go? Into the dirt where it belongs? Maybe. So I believe that we have really, I mean, I don't think you'll find another range in the area as safe as our range. We have spent a lot of money on the baffle system to keep anybody from shooting outside the range. We put the tires up there, and now we're filling the tires full of, it's actually the byproduct from granite, that it's a powder, and I think they use it like in dairies and that, and there's no rock in there whatsoever. So when the bullet hits, it's gone. And I just believe that we've done, I mean, we don't want no problems there. We don't want no ricochets, because, you know, that's not what we're there for. But I think you can just see that we have done so much to that range. And the hours, he complains about the hours, people shooting after hours. Well, those are our hours. And the hours that you set for us, we are under those hours. And if somebody is in there, we actually gave Dean permission to go up there and chase them out of there, because we don't want them in there either. So we've worked with Dean as much as we can. I think Dean's a good guy. So, but we do everything we can to make that range safe. So I guess that's all I got.
Please state your name and address.
Steve Bruce, 406 Valley Drive, Valley Springs. I am the president of the Garrison Sportsman's Club, and I'd just kind of like to reiterate what Chuck said. As far as safety, that is something that gets talked about at every board meeting. Also, like he said, we have spent thousands of dollars on building up the berms. The sand that he talks about, it's they call it derrick sand, and it's like flour. And we purchased 90 ton of this stuff and put it in our range and our tires and stuff, and that's that I think it will really help address any ricochets that we may have or have had, I guess, so. But again, I would like to say that, we have spent lots of money on it. God, Minnehaha County is now, over 200,000 people. We want to give people a safe place to go. We don't want them out in the ditches or out in the field shooting somewhere, getting ricochets like that. So we feel that we got one of the nicest rifle ranges in the country. So, and again, we take every address that we hear very serious, and we've always tried to be good neighbors. When we do hear from Mr. Sands, we always try to address it. So I guess if the council has any questions for me on what we've done and what we have done in the past, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, that's all I have.
Any questions?
Just curious about that powder. How often do you guys change that out? And
The powder?
Yeah, is it soluble? I mean, does it get wet? Is it going to affect it at all or not?
Well, that's a good question. We have not had it in there long enough yet. We've only had it in there for about a month. It is a byproduct from LG Everest quarry that they don't even really have a market for other than bedding, and some people use it for laying bricks on and stuff. But it's basically like flour, and it's put inside of those tires. So, I mean, if you had to pile this stuff out in the wind, it would blow. I mean, that's how light it is. But we've got it in there probably about, I would guess, 6-8 inches deep in there. So I guess we don't have enough time yet to see what the weather will do to that. So I really can't.
Just curious, the
Yeah.
wind and the rain, I just wonder,
Yeah.
a light product, how it'll stay in there, I guess.
And of course, where it's at with all the berms and stuff, the wind really can't hit it because there's berms on the left and the right, and obviously the tires are sitting on a berm. And then there's, we got where you shoot at, that's on the other side of it. So, I mean, obviously wind can still hit it, but I think when it gets a little moisture on it, it might, and it's gonna settle down into those tires, I would think. And so we hope that's the answer to it. And we felt it was a better alternative than sand because, sand has rocks in it. And of course, any rock, I mean, it could be the size of your pinky finger and it could cause a ricochet, so that's the idea of it, so. Any other questions? If not, that's all I have.
Guess not.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, what do you think?
To adjourn? Sorry, for this item here. Sorry, I was ahead of myself.
Well, Madam Chair,
Joe?
I would just put out the comment that I think all the folks that came to give us comment, I think you're all operating in good faith and doing, being quite reasonable, such that my own thought would be to let these good faith improvements go for a while. And I think Mr. Sands, operating in good faith and being reasonable, would not hesitate to let us know if there are future concerns. But I don't know, based on what I've heard so far, that I would be in favor of, I guess as staff put it, directing them to recall the conditional use permit. I just don't think that's appropriate at this time, but I do thank citizens that bring concerns to us, and I think this was, I'd applaud staff for taking the time to investigate it and reach out to fellow citizens that are doing their best to mitigate potential harm to the community. So I would just take all of that at face value right now until we hear something new, that there's an ongoing concern or a new concern.
I guess I do have a comment on that. By no means do I sit here and pretend to be a gun expert. By no means do I sit here and pretend to be a range expert. And, I work for a construction company. What do I know about how to design a rifle range correctly, safely, to ensure public safety? By admission of both parties, I guess there have been ricochets that have left the range, and whether they've gone to Dean's property or to other adjacent properties, I guess, who am I to say? I do applaud, I guess, and appreciate the efforts that the range has made to address the concerns. I guess I don't know, I guess where I'm going with this, I don't, I mean, not to discredit any efforts that have been made, but when I look at this, we're really dealing with a life safety issue here. We're not dealing with someone that built a house over a property line, or someone that built a house or a shed that's outside the, too many square feet, so to speak. So yeah, I guess I don't know what the correct action is here. And unfortunately, just say that, well, we'll wait to see if there's another ricochet occurs. Well, what if that ricochet is, not so, God forbid, fatal, but harmful to someone or something?
Any other comments?
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, and just say, I just don't know what action other than, I think, in good faith, I think it was proposed that we have some expert, as we all seem to be admitting that we're not experts in this. And I think just back to, I don't know that this is ripe for us to take any action other than continued having our ears open to further issues, potentially working with staff on any other items they could do in the future. Do we have precedent for doing things like, seeking guidance from an outside expert on something like this? I guess I would be more concerned if we were getting ongoing complaints, that we took some mitigation effort and hasn't resolved, which would point to there's some fatal flaw in the design that wasn't able to be mitigated in obvious ways. So not to kick the can down the road, I think you guys have tried to teach me to take care of things when we have it in front of us rather than always deferring matters, but I just don't know that I've got a firm handle on what we would do at this point. So I guess time is our friend in that sense of letting anything develop further, but I'd be open.
Time isn't my friend. Because the next, I've been acting in good faith.
Sir, you're out of order.
And I've acknowledged the good faith of all parties here. I just don't know that we have grounds for affirmative action at this point. So I acknowledge the serious nature of the underlying issue. It is a life safety. Yeah, this is different in kind from just a overbuilt structure or things like that we would see on a day-to-day basis. But at that same time, I think it's kind of, not that it's necessarily outside of our jurisdiction, but it is kind of outside this body's expertise. And so it's an awkward situation of not knowing exactly what to do that's within the framework of this body.
Scott, to that, can you comment on what we can and can't do then? Joe makes a comment, what is in our purview, as part of this body to ensure that we're operating safely, they're operating safely.
Well, if you would like to take some action, you can ask to have the conditional use permit recalled and bring it to the commission for action, at which time you could request request the property owner to provide some kind of like a professional report that would be prepared by someone that is knowledgeable in gun ranges to address safety. I mean, that certainly could be within your rights to say, based on life and safety issues, we are giving you, 90 days to provide a report showing it's in safe operation.
So is that something we can do without recalling the permit?
Well, you would do it, you basically recall it to allow for discussion to occur. So you recall it, but it doesn't mean you have to revoke it, or it just allows you to bring the conditional use permit back for formal discussion, which then you could require
Right, and
something.
I guess where I'm going with that, I don't think that by any means they've operated in bad faith or haven't made, great efforts to improve the property. I don't want to have to go down the road, for lack of a better term, revisiting hours of operation and things that have already been, well established, and it sounds like are working well.
Well, as I see it, you have conflicting interests between the gun range and the property owner. The property owner is saying it's not working, it's not operating safely. You have the petitioner, the gun range, which saying it is operating within the NRA safety guidelines and so on. I think Kevin indicated they're following those safety protocols and guidelines. So really, as I see it, if you want to move ahead with this at all, it is going to be doing a recall, directing the applicant to provide a professional prepared report that it is operating safely, because then you're going to be able to show that report to the neighbor that's saying it's not safe, to say, yes, it is safe. And then will that satisfy that person's concerns? I don't know. I mean, whether they will agree that it's still acting, I mean, whether they will acknowledge the report is sufficient. I mean, those are all things that we would have to find out. And I don't know who you'd hire. I mean, if you bring someone in from the NRA, or if there's some kind of a professional gun association that does studies, safety analysis type deals, reports.
Any other further comments?
Yes. I'll just note, I'll stick to my original position that I'm not prepared to recall the CUP and go down that route as of yet. Not saying that I would never do that, and I'm open to new facts and circumstances that would show, at least give evidence to, that their existing mitigation efforts were not sufficient.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Brian, go ahead.
I'm going to go along with Commissioner Kipley on this, in the fact that I'm not prepared tonight to just up and pull their license or whatever they have, so.
And in fairness, any action tonight wouldn't pull it. It would just bring it forward for a more formalized hearing, and we'd probably hear even more arguments from both sides. That, again, I have full faith that there'd be lots of good arguments and people talking about safety and any other issues they've had in the past. I guess what I'm hearing, and what's kind of the crux of it to me, is we had an issue. The sequence of events is we had some issues of ricochets. They have then come in and done some mitigation, and then now I haven't heard part C yet.
I guess that's where I go with my question is, well, I mean, continuous ricochets or not, I guess that's where I go with my question of, who am I to say that what was done was adequate or not?
Yes, and so I think the question is, do we have some preemptive duty to get out front of it and to be, and I think you can err on the side of safety. I think that's a reasonable position. So if you guys want to make a motion to that effect, I'm just telling you that my logic as I'm applying it, I would wait until it's shown that the mitigation is not effective. I don't know that we have a duty to seek out.
No, I agree with you. And again, I guess, not to be the word caution guy but again, I go back to the statement that we're not talking about a guy that built a 15,000 square foot shed when he should have had 3. We're talking about potentially life safety, so I guess in my mind, that's why we have more of a responsibility to take a harder look at this. But I don't know what you think, Adam, but.
I guess I'm on Mike's side here, I guess. I'll be on his side. I'd rather err on the side of caution than, I'd like to know too, are they doing what they said? Is it, gonna be passable, to be safe and all that, I guess. I'd rather have an expert come in there and say, yes, you know.
And maybe to piggyback on, I hope that someone does come and say, you know what, this is the best gun range in the
Yeah.
country, because I think that'd be a great asset to the county.
Yeah.
And, you know, the concerns that we've had or the concerns that existed are mitigated, and the byproduct of the flower, I guess, whatever term you want to use, that was installed was exactly what we needed, and it took care of all the concern, I guess. But I guess I'm not going to sit here and say that I know that's correct or not correct. I don't know.
You know, I echo Mike's thought, you know, it sounds good in theory and all that, but does it really work, I guess? That's why I'd like to know, I guess, is it up to their standards of working? I guess a professional who designs it, is it up to their standards, I guess? So, and like Mike said too, if it's the best gun range in South Dakota, the best one designed, that's kudos to them, I guess, you know, so.
So if we would recall this tonight, they can still continue until next month to operate. and-
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we're not telling them you can't
Right,
be open
that's-
tomorrow, no.
That's what my concern was, I guess. I didn't want to shut them down just for that, I guess. So.
And so, Scott, you can kind of help guide us here a little bit. But, you know, this say, you know, we recall this comes back for us. We can say in a month, you have 90 days, 120 days. So, I mean, this could be a longer process than.
You could recall it, you don't have to recall it in the July meeting. I would suggest you give them plenty of time to find the professional that might.
A resource to help them, sure.
So they're better prepared. Maybe you would like to recall that, and put it on the agenda for formal discussion like August. That would give them 2 months to research what kind of professionals are even out there and be able to report back to us on steps, you know, what a professional, what their availability might be, because they may not be able to have someone here within a month. So that's where I'm at. I just, and that'll give them time to sort of know what we're looking for, and maybe be better prepared as an organization to address our concerns on what's even available.
Okay.
But that's just what I would think. I would say at least August or September to give them time. And then we have the formal hearing, if you'd like, if you would like to recall it, we have the formal hearing, and you can then formally ask them to prepare something, and we'd have to bring it back. Because I think right now, they would probably be looking for what's out there, what's available, and then have that for you to be able to tell you at the recall hearing.
Okay, I'm hearing it from both sides, okay? I kind of hear from this side, it was this side, so I guess I'll make a comment too. I'm always concerned about safety. I live in the country too, and I live by Arrowhead Park where all the geese are. And let me tell you, when it's hunting season, I actually take bullets out of my garage doors most of the time. And most of my husband approaches the guy, they say, "Will it ricochet?" Well, there is a certain distance for safety too, and I'm always concerned about that. But, you know, I think we're getting in some gray areas too about, but I think it's a good thing that we need to know what we're doing here before. I think it would be really bad if something happened and then we thought, well, we didn't act on it. I mean, I don't think I could really live with myself knowing that we had somebody maybe, you know, got shot or somebody died or something. That wouldn't set well in my mind. I mean, it would constantly be going through my mind. But it's up to the commission to act on it. And
Well, Madam Chair, I'd be fine with that if recalling it, as long as they're going to continue to operate in the meantime.
is that a motion?
I can make it one. I'll make a motion to recall it until the August meeting.
I guess since I'm the one putting up the fuss, I'll second.
You second that?
I'll just make the comments. I think there's reasonable arguments on both sides. So we very rarely have a divided vote in this group. I think it's ruled by consensus very well. But for the sake of the logic of my argument, I guess I'll vote the other way here on this one, but I think having a hearing isn't going to hurt anything, so I appreciate your guys' arguments.
Okay, I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? I'm going to do a roll call vote. Adam?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joe?
No.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move on. Any new business? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn for this portion of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've got one more